BtS News Today. On December 13th, 2025, something unusual happened in the world of BtS. There was no airport appearance, no surprise Weverse Live, no casual update that fans could dissect frame by frame. For the first time in weeks, perhaps even months, Jimin and Jungkook seemed to vanish simultaneously from the public radar. No schedules leaked, no staff photos surfaced, no brand sightings emerged. In an era where even silence is usually loud, their absence felt unsettlingly complete. The day began like any other for ARMY around the world. Fans woke up checking notifications, expecting at least a small sign of life. A song recommendation, a late-night comment, a blurry photo taken somewhere between practice and rest. Instead, there was nothing. Hours passed, timelines refreshed endlessly, and the realization slowly settled in that this was not an accident or a coincidence. This was deliberate. Jimin and Jungkook have never been strangers to the spotlight. Since debut, their lives have unfolded under constant observation, their movements tracked, their expressions analyzed, their words archived and replayed. Even during hiatus periods or quieter promotional cycles, one of them would usually appear, if only briefly, to reassure fans that everything was fine. December 13th broke that unspoken rule. What made the situation more intriguing was the context leading up to that day. In the weeks before, Jungkook had been unusually restrained in his communication. Known for spontaneous lives and candid moments, he had shifted to brief messages that felt carefully chosen, almost guarded. Jimin, on the other hand, had shown a softer but more introspective side, posting content that felt reflective rather than playful. Fans noticed the change, but no one anticipated complete silence. By midday in Korea, speculation began to spread. International fan communities translated every rumor, every anonymous post, every whisper from supposed insiders. Some claimed the two were preparing something major behind closed doors. Others feared something had gone wrong. The absence of any official clarification from HYB only deepened the mystery, turning December 13th into a day of collective anxiety and curiosity. One of the strongest theories suggested that Jimin and Jungkook were deliberately stepping away to protect something fragile. Over the years, both have spoken openly about the pressures of fame, the exhaustion of constant visibility, and the difficulty of maintaining a sense of self when the world expects you to always be available. Jungkook once admitted that silence was sometimes the only way he could hear his own thoughts. Jimin, in different moments, hinted that there were emotions he could not process while cameras were watching. May 13th have been the moment they chose themselves over expectation. Another layer to the mystery lies in timing. The end of the year is traditionally filled with award shows, special stages, and surprise collaborations. Their disappearance on such a strategically important date felt intentional, almost symbolic. It was as if they were stepping out of the narrative everyone else had written for them, refusing to play a role even for one day. Industry insiders, though careful with their words, hinted that the silence was not due to conflict or crisis. Instead, they described it as a reset. A word that carries weight when applied to artists who have spent over a decade moving forward without pause. A reset implies reflection, reevaluation, and perhaps a decision that could change the trajectory of what comes next. Fans also revisited past interviews, searching for clues they might have overlooked. Jungkook's words from years ago resurfaced, where he said that one day, he wanted to disappear for a while, not because he was unhappy, but because he wanted to return stronger and more honest. Jimin once spoke about the fear of losing himself in the image people loved and the quiet determination to protect his true feelings, even if it meant disappointing expectations. Seen through that lens, December 13th no longer felt random. It felt earned. Still, the emotional impact on fans was undeniable. For many, Jimin and Jungkook are not just artists, but sources of comfort, inspiration, and stability. Their sudden absence created a void that was deeply felt. Social media filled with messages that ranged from concern to unconditional support. Rather than demanding explanations, many fans simply expressed hope that the two were safe, healthy, and finally resting. The silence also raised questions about the future. Was this the calm before a major announcement? A personal retreat before a creative rebirth? Or simply one day where they chose to exist without being observed? In the absence of answers, every possibility remained open. What stands out most about December 13th, 2025 is not fear, but respect. Despite the shock, a significant portion of the fandom responded with maturity, reminding each other that artists are human first. That disappearing does not always mean something is wrong. Sometimes, it means something important is happening quietly. AS night fell, and the day ended without a single update. The mystery remained intact. Jimin and Jungkook did not return to explain themselves. They did not break the silence. And perhaps that was the point. For one full day, they reclaimed control over their presence, reminding the world that even global icons are allowed to step back, breathe, and choose when to be seen. December 13th will likely be remembered not as a scandal, but as a pause. A rare moment in BTS history where absence spoke louder than any performance. Whether it leads to a new chapter, a bold transformation, or simply a deeper understanding between artists and fans, one thing is certain. The disappearance of Jimin and Jungkook was not empty. It was filled with meaning, waiting to be understood when the time is right. As the silence stretched beyond December 13th and slipped quietly into the following days, the unanswered questions did not fade. Instead, they evolved. What began as confusion slowly transformed into contemplation, and for many observers, into a deeper reading of everything Jimin and Jungkook had shown the world over the past year. Their disappearance no longer felt like a sudden break, but rather the final sentence of a paragraph that had been forming for a long time. Behind the scenes, subtle movements were noticed by those who pay attention to details others miss. Staff members associated with BTS were seen entering and leaving HYB's building at unusual hours. Practice rooms remained lit late into the night, yet no familiar figures appeared at the windows. Music producers posted cryptic messages about silence before clarity and work that cannot be rushed. None of it confirmed anything directly, but together, it painted a picture of intense activity hidden beneath a calm surface. For Jimin and Jungkook, privacy has always been a paradox. Their bond with fans is built on openness, vulnerability, and shared emotion, yet their greatest struggles have often been the ones they carried quietly. In recent months, both had subtly shifted the tone of their public presence. Jungkook's laughter still appeared, but it came with pauses, moments where his eyes lingered somewhere distant. Jimin's warmth remained, yet his words felt heavier, as if layered with thoughts he could not fully express. December 13th seemed to mark the moment when holding those thoughts privately became necessary. Some fans began to interpret the disappearance as an act of trust. By not explaining themselves immediately, Jimin and Jungkook were asking ARMY to believe in them without reassurance, to accept silence as part of their journey rather than a threat to it. This idea resonated deeply with longtime supporters who remembered earlier eras, when uncertainty was frequent and faith was the foundation of everything. Others speculated that the two were preparing for a turning point that required complete focus. Not a small project or a routine schedule, but something that demanded emotional and mental isolation. Creativity, especially at their level, is rarely born in noise. It grows in spaces where expectations are temporarily shut out, where artists can confront their fears and ambitions without an audience waiting to judge the result. There was also the undeniable reality of exhaustion. Years of non-stop performance, global attention, and personal sacrifice accumulate in ways that cannot always be seen. Jungkook once described feeling as though time moved too fast for him to catch up with himself. Jimin spoke of nights when the weight of responsibility pressed too heavily on his chest. Their disappearance could simply be an act of survival, a quiet agreement to rest before something inside them fractured. What made the moment particularly powerful was HYB's continued silence. In an industry known for swift clarifications and carefully crafted statements, the absence of an official explanation felt intentional. It suggested respect for the artist's decision, an acknowledgement that not every movement needs to be packaged for public consumption. That restraint, rare as it is, lent credibility to the idea that this was not damage control, but a conscious pause that as days passed. Fans began to shift their language. Panic softened into patience. Concern turned into messages of encouragement written into the digital void, hoping Jimin and Jungkook might see them someday. Instead of demanding content, fans shared memories, favorite lyrics, moments that reminded them why they fell in love with these artists in the first place. In a way, the disappearance brought the fandom closer to its roots, back to connection rather than consumption. December 13th also reignited conversations about identity. Both Jimin and Jungkook debuted at a young age, growing into adulthood under relentless scrutiny. Every transformation was documented, every mistake magnified. Disappearing from the public eye, even briefly, can be an act of reclaiming selfhood. It allows space to exist without labels, without roles, without the pressure to perform emotional accessibility at all times. There is a quiet courage in choosing not to explain yourself when the world expects you to. As the mystery continued, one truth became increasingly clear. Whatever Jimin and Jungkook were doing in that silence, it was not empty. It was full of intention, weight, and meaning that could not yet be translated into words or images. Their absence felt like a held breath, a moment suspended before release. And so the story of December 13th did not end with disappearance. It continued as an unseen chapter, written somewhere beyond cameras and headlines. Whether it leads to new music, a redefined vision, or simply a healthier balance between life and fame, the silence itself has already spoken volumes. When Jimin and Jungkook return, as they always do, the world will listen differently. Not because answers are owed, but because the pause reminded everyone of something essential. Presence is powerful precisely because absence is possible. And sometimes, the most meaningful statement an artist can make is choosing when not to be seen.